Let's click onto the Global Tropical Overview for July the 16th or 17th, 2023. As is always the case in these videos, let's expect your mind alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look towards your local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. We're going to start off with Tropical Storm Calvin here in the Eastern Pacific, about to cross into the Central Pacific, which for reference starts here at the 140 degrees west of longitude line. And really all that means that the National Hurricane Center will stop issuing advisories and the Central Pacific Hurricane Center will take over on advisories. That's all it means. But in general, the system has weakened quite a bit since yesterday, as you'd expect. It held on pretty well yesterday, but once the sun had set over the region, the cloud tops have started to warm and dry air had gotten entrained, and now we just have one little sustaining convective burst on the northeastern side of the center, and that's really keeping it as a tropical storm right now. Now, winds right now are about 65 miles per hour. It is forecast to weaken a little bit more on the model, or on its track towards Hawaii, maybe towards about 40 to 45 miles per hour as it approaches the islands. Now, as the system gets towards the islands, sea surface temperatures will increase again, so there is that possibility for the system to remain a tropical cyclone. In fact, this is forecast by the National Hurricane Center. You can see that here on their forecast cone, keeping that general weakening trend as a tropical storm through the Hawaiian Islands, and then opening up into an open wave or weakening to a remnant low after the Hawaiian Islands. This strong shear and dry air really kills off any regeneration or re-intensification chances. Now, for impacts in Hawaii, we're expecting this storm to come through Tuesday local time. So you can see Tuesday evening, we would start to see the system's center come through. Now, we could see some tropical storm force winds come through maybe a bit earlier than that, but right now the overall tropical storm force wind field is not too big, and we'll likely see it mainly kept to, I'd say, the northern side of the system as it comes through, especially if it opens up into an open wave. But regardless of that, impacts here will be strong winds, 40 to 45 miles per hour, perhaps a little bit stronger in the higher elevations of the islands, and heavy rainfall as well. That rainfall could be enhanced a little bit by the higher elevations as well. Now, you'll notice there are no tropical storm watches or warnings right now in the Hawaiian Islands. They have mentioned in their latest advisory that watches will likely be needed by, say, tonight local time or tomorrow morning local time. So once those watches get issued, remember the tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions, that includes tropical storm force winds, are possible within the next 36 to 48 hours. A tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected within the next 24 to 36 hours. And for those in Hawaii, make sure you stay tuned to the National Weather Service there and the Central Pacific Hurricane Center, as they're going to have the best information on that as Calvin approaches. All right, let's move to the Western Pacific, as we have two potentially significant systems to talk about here. Talim is already pretty significant here. You can see it's a typhoon right now. It has a ragged eye appearance here in the center, but overall, current satellite estimates support this being a typhoon. In fact, that's what the Joint Typhoon Warning Center has got it at, even the JMA as well. Now, the system does have a little bit some issues with convection. You can see we've got a lot of convection, deep convection on the southern side and eastern side, but on the northwestern side, we don't really have much. Not much at all. Now, this could limit the system a little bit, and we hope that this would sustain so that we don't get, full ring of deep convection sustaining around the center, so we can avoid a rapidly intensifying storm. But some further intensification seems fairly likely with the environment that it's in, and we're expecting the system to come further northwest into, let me get a better satellite loop so you can see my pen, generally west of Hong Kong, north of Hainan, in this general corner region of China. Now, some good news here for Hong Kong especially. We are not seeing any instance now where the system comes right into Hong Kong, like some models had shown yesterday. This system is now passing south of you. Now, that doesn't mean you're getting away completely without impacts. Here's a Japan Meteorological Agency cone, and you can see some adverse impacts here in this yellow ring extending into the city area. So you're not getting away completely away from impacts, but you're getting away from the worst of it, which is in this red ring here of typhoon force winds. Now, as the system comes through, again, some additional intensification seems fairly likely, and we'll see landfall in about a day or so. And after that, the system will weaken, and fairly short order, it will be out of our hair. But we will not be done with tropical cyclones in the West Pacific, especially in this part of the world, as it looks like we're not going to get much of a break after Talim. Now let's go to the next system. This is Invest 98W, and for some perspective, this is the island of Palau. If here's the zoomed out water vapor loop, there's Palau right there. The Philippines right here. So the system is generally centered here, southeast of the Philippines. Now, as the system comes generally northwest, we are seeing signs from modeling that this system may have a really good environment to develop and intensify in, and it is possible that the system becomes perhaps a more significant tropical cyclone even after Talim. So again, we're not really getting much of a break here. Now, here's a GFS model. This is a 200 millibar flow. Now, this is out to 6 days. I'll have to go back a little bit so you can see the environment as the system develops. But you can see overall, we've got a ridge to the north and a trough to the east. Now, these two features are going to help with divergence aloft. This ridge is going to help with easterly divergence, and the trough here is going to help with more westerly divergence away from the storm. That's a fairly favorable look, and if I get a sounding over the system, shear is fairly low. You can see it's only about 11 knots. I've seen some soundings that have tried to put it up towards 20 knots, and if it is in that case, it could put a little bit more pressure on the storm and maybe hold it back a little bit more. But overall, conditions are looking fairly favorable, and sea surface temperatures here are plenty warm, and the oceanic heat content is very high in this region. The warm waters extend to a great depth in the Philippine Sea. Now, here's a European model, and I'll have to go back as well. I'll go to day 4 as well here on the model, and you can see this trough here, again to the east, and this ridge to the north. Now, there is some differences between the GFS and the European. The European model is much faster with this system, and you'll see that as I play it out. You'll notice here we are by day 5, getting towards day 6 here. We have a system here off the coastline of Luzon. The GFS is a little slower with this system. If I go to day 6, you'll notice it's not moved really at all here in the central Philippines. So that is a little bit of a difference, and this makes a big difference in terms of track, because having this system stalled down here allows more time for the pattern up north to shift. Right now, what the models are depicting is a ridge up north, stretching from about China to Japan, and there's a trough to the east of that, or sorry, to the west of that ridge. Now, in the European scenario, the system is quicker, so this ridge does not really have much time to weaken or erode. So this system starts to track generally towards Luzon, perhaps maybe even towards Taiwan in some runs, and it ends up going into the South China Sea and heading towards China right around where Talim is. But on the GFS model, because the system is stuck down here east of the Philippines, this trough up north is generally able to erode this ridge. So you'll see as the system comes north here on the model, and no, we're 222 hours out, this ridge is not nearly as strong as it is on the GFS, and we have more of a stronger trough here over China. And this is going to pull the system northward and have the system come more towards Taiwan, Shanghai, the southern Japanese islands, mainland Japan, and Korea. Now, of course, a lot of these details we'll have to iron out over the next several days. It is important to remember we don't really have a formed center of circulation here. Once we get that, we can get maybe a better handle from the models. Alongside that, we'll just need to see how the pattern evolves over time. Now, here's the GFS ensemble tracks. You can see this shows a different picture from the parent model run. These are showing more agreement with the European ensemble, or European model rather. And you can see that general bend towards the northwest. But the Canadian models or ensembles are more in line with the parent GFS, showing more of a pattern of this system coming further north. So there is a lot of uncertainty here in terms of track. We've got generally an envelope here, say from mainland Japan into portions of the central Philippines. This is a very wide range, but not unexpected for a system that's, where this track is 6 to 7 days out, plus even on the GFS that goes well past 7 days. So there's a lot of time here. So my recommendation to those in the Philippines and Taiwan and China, southern Japanese islands and mainland Japan, just pay close attention to 98W. It's not an imminent threat right now. We're talking something that may be next weekend into next week. So there's a lot of time here to watch this. That's good news. But stay tuned to your local weather office and stay tuned to the Japan Meteorological Agency. They're going to have the best information on this. And of course, I'll have future videos all week long into next weekend on the system as it develops. But it does certainly look like we may be not getting too much of a break between big tropical cyclones in the Western Pacific. Let's hope, though, that this system turns out to be much weaker than models are depicting. But given the environment that we're seeing on the modeling here, looks like we could be in for yet another big one here in the Western Pacific. But stay safe, everybody, in Hawaii and in China. And I'll have, again, future videos later this week. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching.